is Genesis, and you're watching Dante's Boxing Nation.
Dante's Boxing Nation, what's going on, guys? So we have a new champion in one of the deepest divisions in the sport of boxing, if not the deepest, junior middleweight, and that is Xander Zayas. And he beat a very good opponent to win that title against Garcia or Jorge Garcia. Because Garcia, he was just coming off of a win of previously undefeated American Olympian Charles Conwell. And Xander Zayas, he was able to shut out Garcia, which makes the win even more impressive. Now, when it comes to this fight, I have a lot to say. In fact, I have to break everything down into segments because there's some good news and some bad news. But the bad news that I'm going to get into, it wasn't Xander Zayas' fault at all. But I'm going to break that down later on in the video. But starting off with the good news, Xander Zayas, like I said, he completely dominated Garcia. It was a competitive fight, but he dominated the fight. And the irony is Xander Zayas, he beat Garcia pretty much the same way Garcia beat Conwell, which is by boxing, using a lot of foot movement and tying up on the inside. Now, the first half of this fight, Xander Zayas, he looked really impressive. I mean, he was really outboxing Garcia, using a real strong jab, setting up some nice right hands. But Garcia, he was also landing some really good punches on Xander Zayas as well. Now, the second half of the fight is when everything changed. And like Andre Ward famously said, the seventh round, the second half of the fight, that's when the fight actually starts. So when it comes to this fight, Xander, he was standing in front of Garcia a lot more in the first half. But as soon as the second half started, or probably a little bit before the second half started, Xander, he started to move a lot. He started to hold a lot. His foot movement and him clinching was his main form of defense. But in between him moving and clinching, he was landing some really good punches. Now, even though you guys seen some of the footage, I want to put this still image up so you guys can get more of an idea of the distance that Xander was putting between him and George in the fight. Now, let me start by telling you guys this. I like the way that Xander boxed in this fight. He was smart, and he completely nullified everything that Garcia wanted to do. Once again, Garcia, he is a mover too. But in this fight, it was Xander that was moving, so Xander was forcing Garcia to chase him around the ring. Something that Garcia was not comfortable or was not used to doing. Garcia was used to making fighters chase him so he could set up the traps. So the way Xander boxed, there's nothing wrong with it. But the only reason why it stands out so much is because of that stupid analogy that Turki Al-Sheikh used when he was talking about black fighters like Devin Haney and Shakur Stevenson, saying that he didn't want any Tom and Jerry, and he targeted Shakur Stevenson directly when it came to his fight against William Zepeda, telling Shakur Stevenson that he has a shrinking ring just for him. And if you guys recall, when Turki first started using this Tom and Jerry analogy, I told you guys what I actually like about him publicly saying that is the fact that it is going to shine an even bigger light on all of the non-black boxers that really do move around the ring constantly and use it as their defense or their main defense. And it didn't take that long for us to get Exhibit A. I mean, it only took 2 weeks. And this is what I meant earlier when I said this is not Xander Zayas' fault. This is Turki Al-Sheikh's fault for exposing these contradictions that exist in the sport. So now that Xander Zayas is the junior middleweight champion, he's in one of the deepest divisions. There's a very good chance he's going to end up fighting against one of the other champions, and he will most likely be working with Turki Al-Sheikh. So now we get to see if Turki Al-Sheikh is going to use that same energy when it comes to Xander Zayas and treat him the exact way he treated Shakur Stevenson. And the situation is so fascinating because as good as Xander Zayas is, which I do believe he's one of the best at 154, it clearly shows you the levels that exist in the sport of boxing because Xander, he showed that he's nowhere near on the level of a Shakur Stevenson type of talent. Because Shakur Stevenson was standing right in front of a very aggressive Mexican fighter, and Shakur did not have to rely on foot movement or clinching to beat him. Xander is clearly not skilled enough to sit on the ropes and beat up his opponent. That's why he stayed off the ropes this entire fight against Garcia. He's also not skilled enough to go 12 whole rounds just standing in front of his opponent like Shakur did against Zepeda. Now let's talk about ESPN's commentary, which is really going to bring my point home. So you guys might remember when Devin Haney, he fought against George Kambosos in the rematch, right? His most dominant performance out of the two fights. Well, during that fight, ESPN, they created a clinch stat just for Devin Haney. A clinch stat that they didn't even use for Kambosos, who actually was clinching more than Devin Haney was. So sometime during the fight, once again, they put up a graphic showing how many times they claimed that Devin Haney was initiating clinches. So with that being said, you fast forward to present day. And in this fight with Xander Zayas, he was clinching way more than Devin Haney clinched against Kambosos, and never was he criticized for it. In fact, he was praised for clinching, and he was praised for his Tom and Jerry foot movement. I'm going to put up this clip. I want you guys to listen to how Tim Bradley and Joe Tessitore, they're praising Xander for his foot movement in the fight.
It's the 10th round, and he's still moving around like it's the first round. He's still able to anticipate offense coming. He still, has great defense and elusiveness to go along with. His punches are still, it's not as sharp. Left hook becomes a little bit more wide. Right hand becomes a little bit more wide and slower.
And yet here's another example of Xander Zayas' excessive holding in the fight. In fact, he was warned not once, but twice by the referee to stop holding.
If you stop him like that with that offense, right? And then when he gets close, you step in and you tie him up. Stop all of that. What are you going to do? Stop holding. Stop holding. Oh, you got the first warning right there. From the ref. Yeah, you got to stop holding.
And that was the second warning. In fact, when the referee gave Xander the first warning, as soon as the referee broke them up, Xander, he leaped into another clinch without even throwing a single punch. And the referee didn't warn him that time. That was supposed to be his second warning. The second warning didn't come for like another 2 or 3 rounds. Now let's go back to Joe Tessitore and Tim Bradley constantly praising Xander Zayas for his foot movement in the ring. In fact, at one point in the fight, Joe Tessitore, he actually says that Xander Zayas' foot movement is justified. He used the word justified because he had already done so well in the earlier rounds. Okay, now in this clip I'm about to play, Tim Bradley, he's basically saying, okay, now it's getting to the point to where Xander Zayas is just moving and he's not even punching back. And he's trying to say it in a nice way. I would advise him to just, throw the jab a little bit and just punch a little bit, or else he's going to start giving Garcia confidence because he's just moving away.
Xander's not trying not to allow Garcia to get in this fight right now. That's why he's using his legs to get out of range. He's trying not to let him get going. He understands that if he starts to go down the hill and get gain confidence, there could be problems for him in the next few rounds. So he's getting back to do at this moment. But I would advise Xander, because I see this all the time in football. I would advise him when they go that prevent defense, right? And keep doing what you were doing. Use that jam. Establish your jam. Establish control. You only need the shots. You don't just move and allow me to build those confidence moving forward, thinking that you didn't die.
Yeah, I would think Xander and his camp do have great reason to believe that they're in control of this road for up until we got to that 8th round. So hard to review the 8th round. It's Garcia, that's justified.
Once again, you guys heard right there, Joe Tessitore, he said the foot movement was justified because of the way that Xander fought in the earlier rounds. But keep in mind, even in the earlier rounds, Xander was moving. He just started moving more in the second half of the fight.
Why is it you get away again with that movement?
Defense, man, you can tell he's
And I got to correct the subtitles right there because that was Joe Tessitore saying he's using his legs.
I'm not really saying like that's the first line of defense, but also the other things that he did, and you see those punches come and get out the way.
Good use your feet, he's done that well. Move your head, he's done that well, and get long punches.
Okay, so now we got to go into the Tim Bradley segment. Boy, oh boy, Tim Bradley. So when Bradley was calling the Bruce Carrington fight, man, he started dissing the hell out of Bruce Carrington. He started once again implying that he was boring, and he said, man, he should be knocking this guy out. He said that everybody else would have knocked this guy out, and if he don't knock this guy out, then, it's not an impressive win. And the funniest thing happened. It was a reversal. Everything Tim Bradley was saying was talking points that he learned from Joe Tessitore, Mark Kriegel, and the gang over there at ESPN. But yet Joe Tessitore and Mark Kriegel, who once again, they're usually always calling the black fighter boring, they didn't call Bruce Carrington boring not one single time. It was only Tim Bradley that was saying this. And you could tell Tim Bradley, he was expecting them to go ahead and co-sign what he was saying. And when they wouldn't do it, then all of a sudden, Tim Bradley, he said something like, I know fans at home, they're probably thinking that I'm being like overcritical of Bruce Carrington. And then that's when he tried to balance it out by saying, but Bruce Carrington is a really good fighter, man. He's this and he's that. And once again, it was as if he realized he was the only one trashing Bruce Carrington's performance. Joe Tessitore and Mark Kriegel, they're not backing me up on this. And the real reason why Joe Tessitore and Mark Kriegel wasn't backing up what Tim Bradley was saying is because they know that they already have a reputation of being racist. They've gotten a lot of backlash previously from when they used to always do that. And I was one of the people that used to expose them. So now they're looking at that calling black fighters boring word. It's almost like calling a black person an N-word if you're not black. So Tim Bradley is basically using the N-word on air, and the white commentators, they're like, oh, you go ahead and say that, Tim. We're not going to go ahead and say it because we don't want to be called a racist again. So Tim was like, don't worry, I got you guys covered. So Tim Bradley, he gave Bruce Carrington hell throughout the entire fight, once again criticizing him because he didn't get the knockout, saying that he needs to knock this guy out because so many other fighters would have knocked this same guy out, who was undefeated, by the way, and had a lot of power. But here's where Tim Bradley's energy changed, because he was criticizing Bruce for not doing enough. But once again, when it came to Xander Zayas, who really start moving a lot and, like I said, holding, not only is Tim Bradley defending him, but then Tim Bradley even admits that this guy is ready to go. Garcia was ready to go. He was ready to be knocked out, and he was still defending Xander Zayas for not going in and knocking him out. He said, but you know what? Hey, Xander, he just wants to get the win. He's comfortable winning the fight easy, and he just wants to go home with that belt. Listen to what Tim said, the polar opposite of what he said about Bruce Carrington.
Yeah, it's there for a taking. I think Garcia's prime. He's ready. I don't think he's ready to go. Yes, he's tough. He's doing it, but I think he's ready to go. I think Xander, he started wrapping it up that offense a little bit. Also, was concerned as well. He has that ability. So right now, he's comfortable with just letting the fight easily and go home with that belt.
The saddest thing about these double standards is for the very first time, once again, it was Joe Tessitore and Mark Kriegel. They were the ones that were being way more consistent calling all of the fights than Tim Bradley was. Tim Bradley, once again, he was saying things that he expected them to say and back up, but they didn't do it this time because they knew it would be a bad look. But somehow, Tim Bradley didn't know that. So with that being said, guys, while Xander Zayas is no Shakur Stevenson, he did put on a great performance. He won the fight. He dominated the fight. And I believe that he's one of the most dangerous fighters now at 154. There was absolutely nothing wrong with the way he got the win, but it had to be addressed to expose the double standards. With that being said, I'm going to wrap this video up. That's all I got for now, guys. I'm on to the next one. All right, now check this out, guys. If you're looking to repair eczema scars, burns and bruises, dark spots and blemishes, fever blisters, diabetic ulcers, this right here is the perfect product for you guys. It's called LO Decay Face and Body Oil. Athletes and top-ranking boxers, they're also using it after training to reduce swelling, inflammation, and to ease the pain. So get yours today. Go to lodecay.com, like them on Facebook, and follow them on Instagram. Let me tell you guys about Issa Israel Law Firm. It is a full-service legal practice based in Denver, Colorado, an emerging hub for combat sports and high-altitude training. If you're a fighter inside or outside of the ring and you need a law firm you can trust to fight for you, visit thefighterfirm.com or email help@iilawfirm.com. Legal representation is usually limited to plaintiffs or defendants in Colorado, but iFirm can help anyone in the world with trademarking their business name, logos, and U.S. immigration issues. This brother has been my attorney for a while and helped guide me through all kinds of business and civil issues, so make sure you guys go to thefighterfirm.com.